Welcome to today's market report.
European stocks steadied near record highs on Wednesday, with investors holding off on taking big bets ahead of a policy decision from the European Central Bank and US inflation reading later this week. The pan-European stock 600 index slipped 0.1% in morning trade, but stayed just short of a record high of 455.66 hit in the previous session. Air France KLM, Lufthansa and British Airways on a IAG climbed more than 2% after the US CDC said it was easing travel recommendations on 110 countries and territories. The wider travel and leisure index rose 0.7% as many European economies charted their way out of COVID-19 lockdowns. Worries about rising inflation remained on investors' minds after data earlier showed China's factory gate prices rose at their fastest annual pace in over 12 years in May, driven by surging commodity prices. Big UK-listed miners such as Rio Tinto, Anglo American and the BHP Group fell more than 1%, pulling down London's blue chip FTSE 100 by 0.6%. Other main regional bourses, including Germany's DAX and France's CAC 40, were trading flat. Focus will be on the US consumer prices data on Thursday, a reading that could influence market expectations on the US Federal Reserve tapering its massive bond purchases program ahead of its meeting next week. Despite an economic recovery underway and price pressures rising, the ECB is likely to say that it will maintain the current pace of bond purchases at its policy meeting on Thursday. Inflation is creating uncertainty about what central banks will do or say going forward. We think central banks will be patient, but we also believe that an adjustment in communication about inflation and policy changes will start in summer. According to Barclays, Spanish retail giant Inditex reversed early gains made after beating first quarter net profit expectations. Its shares were down more than 1%. French food group Danone slipped 1.9% after RBC downgraded the stock to underperform. Oslo-based salmon farmer SalMar fell about 5% to the bottom of Stock 600 after it completed a private placement deal. Crude oil prices pushed higher on Wednesday, helped by growing confidence about the outlook of fuel demand as the global economy recovers, particularly the US, the largest consumer in the world. The US crude was up 0.2% at $70.21 per barrel after closing Tuesday above the 70 mark for the first time since October 2018. Brent was up 0.2% at $72.39 per barrel after earlier reaching $72.83 per barrel, the highest since 20th of May 2019. The gold futures was up 0.03% at $1,895.05 per ounce. On the FX front, GBP/USD is advancing towards 142, catching a fresh bid on the hawkish comments from the Bank of England chief economist Andy Haldane. Haldane said that the UK economy is going gangbusters and therefore the central bank may need to start turning off the stimulus tab. The cable jumped nearly 30 pips in the knee-jerk reaction to the BOE policymakers' comments, further helped by a broadly subdued US dollar and the Treasury yields. The GBP bulls shrug off the Brexit deadlock and uncertainty over the UK reopening. The UK PM Boris Johnson sticks to his plan of reopening the economy on 21st June, despite the latest reports of likely delay due to the concerns over the Indian Delta COVID strain. Meanwhile, the UK and European Union's Brexit negotiators are due to meet later today in the last-minute efforts to resolve the Northern Ireland Portugal issue. However, the main event risk for markets this week remains the US CPI report, which will throw fresh cues on the Fed's next monetary policy action amid rising inflationary risks. On hawkish comments, GBP/USD jumped nearly 30 pips to hit daily highs at 141.82. The spot now trades at 141.74, still up 0.13% on the day. GBP/EUR consolidates above the 116 hurdle on the back of the hawkish talk. Next resistance at 116.50, a multi-week high. The sluggish movement in the US dollar keeps Eurodollar on the higher side, with the moves comprising of a 15 pips range below 122. Subdued US dollar and Treasury yields helped underpin the major as the focus shifts to the ECB decision and US CPI data. The US dollar index was up less than 0.1% at 19.093 ahead of the key events.
This is today's market news. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.